Greetings, Dragon Ball fans, and welcome to part 5 of What If Kami Had Kids, where Kami, having seen Goku almost kill King Piccolo, then reject his offer of guardianship, took matters into his own hands and tore a page out of that King Piccolo's playbook. He shortened his own, as yet indeterminate lifespan by some equally indeterminate amount, and hatched a few of his own little plans. Previously, we saw the introduction of Kami's 4 children, the warrior clan brothers of Wind and Thunder, Fujin and Raijin, as well as the dragon clan brothers of Ocean and Water, Sujin and Ryujin. They then met Raditz, Vegeta, and Nappa, and traveled to their ancestral homeworld of Namek. One Namekian fusion later, they quickly dealt with a certain problem before things got too out of hand. There was no toying with Frieza, or giving him the chance to go much beyond his second form, as the fusion host, Raijin, was just a little bit pissed off at having no option but to merge with his brother. So he did the deed with little fanfare. They were then pointed towards Yardrat by Porunga, and got the actual directions from the still surviving Jace. Once there, though, midway through at least Goku's training, a few of them had to return to Namek to dissuade King Cold's attempt to locate what little remained of his son. There we got to see the fruits of Vegeta's gravity training falling short of King Cold, along with some cloning shenanigans from Gohan. Unfortunately, Fujin did not retain the forced spirit fission technique that his fused brother had learned, but Piccolo had it in the bag, so we got to see him and Raijin happily fusing in front of the shocked Namekian onlookers, and wiping out King Cold, just after he shrunk down slightly to his own final form. After dealing with Cold, they returned to round out their training on Yardrat, now with Dende and Cargo in tow. They then returned to Earth, a bit later than normal, giving Goku the chance to learn, if not everything, then most of it as well. Goku eventually fell ill to the heart virus, but he was dragged back to full health by 5 Namekians, now all capable of healing, along with Gohan, Krillin, and Tien, who had been taken under Krillin's wing, as it were. A couple of years later, right on schedule, an island near South City is attacked, and the Z-Fighters all trickle in, or more like pop in, to find and then get beaten up a bit by the cyborgs 17 and 18. They easily Yamcha, who had gotten there a bit late, having to go the old-fashioned way. Then they get a bit confused by the seemingly endless supply of Krillins that just keep attacking one after another. They blow up one, and moments later, another appears from somewhere else. What is this, a factory line? Aren't they the machines here? I wonder if this 18 might find herself just a teensy bit flustered, at this point, with a seemingly endless supply of the presumably attractive little bald man that keeps heading her way again and again. Does she still like older short guys, in what I'm sure you've all realized is the alternate future timeline? Does each fresh clone glance at its source, knowing that they both think she's kinda hot? She's a goddamn teenager, Krillin. Christ, whatever. She and her brother continue to wreck the clones regardless. With the original, Krillin Prime if you will, collapsing, finally out of mojo, the still non-Super Saiyan Vegeta has finally arrived on the scene, and gets beaten into the ground as well. Fujin and Raijin individually get knocked back, but being Namekians, they shrug it off, regrowing any missing bits, and do the whole chest-touchy thing as Goku finally shows up too. They are then more than able to keep the 2 cyborgs at bay, while healings are doled out to Yamcha, Vegeta, and Krillin by Gohan and Piccolo. So how is Goku able to keep up with this sans Super Saiyan? Well, he does have Kaioken, and do you think he used that on occasion, while on Yardrat, to maybe try and get some training in against the then still fused Raijin? Sure, why not? I mean, you know he'd want to test himself against that kind of power. Also, I'd like to think that the Yardratians would take one look at the Kaioken and go, yeah, we'll let you finish, but maybe we can help you with that first. Long story short, the lack of Super Saiyan as a more natural transformation is still missing here, so Kaioken will need to pick up some of that slack. And for a while it does. It's still not the up to 50 times increase of Super Saiyan, and while eased significantly, at least on Saiyan physiology, it still takes its toll on the practitioner. The cyborgs, though, are quite single-minded, and gleefully chase down their ailing primary target, Son Goku, to the distinct benefit of everyone else there. The pair are faced with a bit of a problem, however. Their deeply embedded instruction set simply says to kill Son Goku, which, while it does include anything that gets in the way of that goal, it makes zero allowance for there being more than one Son Goku, and their confusion leads to some interesting shifts in tactics. Whenever one of the pair of Gokus is hidden by rubble or smoke or whatever, the attacker that put him there immediately switches to the visible one. When there are 2 of them visible, they keep switching back and forth, like they can't decide who to attack. The now cloned instance of the also fused Fujin, since it was his turn to be in charge, are also proving very effective at fending them off, but not enough to prevent them from getting at least one full power, max energy output combo double teamy type blast on their primary target. Goku, along with a decent chunk of the wasteland they had strategically worked their way to, is vaporized, and the androids, scanning the debris, find no trace of their target. Son Goku is dead. Mission accomplished. Primary objectives cleared. Game over, man. Game over. You win. But now what? The pair stop trying to fight Fujin long enough for the rest of the Z-Fighters to regroup and contemplate their next action. A Gohan walks up slowly with the two Fujins behind him and asks just what they plan on doing now that they've, killed Son Goku. Well, whatever. Jiro's command is no longer overriding everything in their consciousness. There are no more waypoints to follow, and no more blinking next objective icons to be seen. And what other commands did this Jiro person give them? Nothing. No contingency instructions? So what, they're just gonna wander off into the sunset? Well, that's a relief, Goku Prime says as he finally climbs out of his rubble house. The Z-Fighters all share worried glances, and the two Fujins roll their eyes, and maybe smack their foreheads, before they re-establish their fighting pose, with Piccolo appearing behind them, just for good measure. The two cyborgs just stand there, though, staring at Goku, completely expressionless. He's dead, but he's not dead. Yeah, but the conditions for his death have clearly been met. They had both watched his body evaporate into a cloud of something, and, well, that subroutine that was enforcing their actions has shut off. So, Oh, whatever. We did what we were told, so let's get out of here, 18, 17 says, already quite bored with things. As they fly off, there are more exchanged glances, then shrugs, and finally some light pops, as people vanish one by one. After Vegeta flies off, Yamcha is left standing there amid the rubble, chuckling to himself as he contemplates the gaping hole in his gi, and some of the survivors start to re-emerge. Are they gone? Apparently, Yamcha says, looking around at the gathering townfolk. Hey, aren't you that baseball player? A little boy asks. Yeah, kid. Did you save us? The parents ask. Well, sure, I helped, Yamcha starts to say, but gets interrupted by the cheers. Back at the Son family home, Goku is back to training against the still-fused Fujin, as Gohan and Piccolo look on. The man just can't seem to wrap his head around using the clones properly. They just have no coordination at all, which, honestly, shouldn't be possible, since they are the same person. Also interesting to note is that the clone can't seem to use Kaioken at all. It just kind of fizzles out of existence whenever it tries. In the distance, through an open window, you can just about see another Gohan sitting quietly reading one textbook or another. When the training session is finally over, and Fujin has punched himself back in two, they say their goodbyes and head off to the lookout. Life resumes its almost idyllic nature for weeks, then months. There is nothing to be heard from those red-ribbon teenagers, much to Krillin's disappointment. Tien is keeping him busy, though, as he has finally started fielding his own spirit clones. It was certainly weird at first, him being used to his multiform technique, but the differences and benefits are clear as day. The clones don't at all reduce the user's strength, though they do have some limits. They require a constant level of concentration to maintain, but they consume no energy. They hit just as hard as you can, but they don't consume your physical stamina, only your mental. Initially, it can be quite strange, because one has no idea what the clone is actually doing, but you still have to remain aware that it exists, otherwise it kinda stops doing that. Tien is pretty lucky, though. His clones come equipped with a third eye as well, so they can easily track each other's presence and actions. But how did Gohan figure out how to remember what his clones did when not in line of sight? Was that something only that Pibara guy and a few other native Yardratians seemed to do? 3 years into what would normally have been a 7-year time skip, while Krillin is busy thinking he's spotted someone who looks like that cyborg girl milling around town, and Chi-Chi is taking Gohan, or at least Gohan, to look at a nearby school to consider going to, a computer, in a lab, far off in the mountains near North City, is having a massive debate with itself. According to the creator's instructions, the embryo shouldn't be ready for another 16 years, but the growth curve is clear. Whatever genetic structure has taken shape has matured at a rapidly accelerated rate. The computer isn't exactly equipped to wonder why, only what the correct step is to take. As is, Project 20 will become too large for the maturation chamber within the month, and there are signs of movement, both physical and mental. And so, as the computer in Jiro's lab initiates the birthing sequence, the tank drains, and a spindly green appendage twitches, we will bring Part 5 to a close. What could be about to emerge from Jiro's perfect plans? Will Krillin and 18 ever meet up again? Will Gohan make it into that school he likes? Will Gohan make it into both of the schools he likes? Can Goku and Chi-Chi afford the tuition fees, or is at least one of them a public school? Find out next time on Dragon Ball, What If Kami Had Kids?